Happy Tuesday. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Stitch in Crime Book Club. How is everybody? I'm going to give it a minute. I think that notices are going out like late. People are not getting them. So I'm going to give it some time. Annie, I know Annie is here. Hello, Annie. Good to see you. She has a question for Stephen, and I think it's an excellent question. I will be sure and write that down. And that is, what kind of a toll did crime scene investigation take on him mentally and physically? I would like to know that as well. Hi, Mary. Roaming with Rover. I've forgotten your first name, but hello. Good to see you. Just going to call you Rover. Speaking of Rover, I'm not speaking to him at the moment. He went running off just before my live. Mr. Fiber had to go and try and track him down. Sometimes he will not hear me when I'm calling him. He's focused on whatever it is he's doing, wherever he has gone outside, and does not hear me. It's like a mom calling their child and the child does not hear mom. Just doesn't hear her. Same thing. So Mr. Fiber goes out there and he starts hollering for him and he can get him to come back. Robin, nice to see you, Robin. Are you in my neck of the woods? Are you in the Texas oil fields? We are still on Murder Investigation Team by Stephen Keogh. How many of you were able to finish that entire section? Because I was not. That should not surprise you. Oh, my internet just jumped. I got a whole bunch of stuff come in. Yes, those dogs, they do have selective hearing. They most definitely do. Hey, Kim, how are you tonight? Back in Washington. Okay. Oh, thanks for coming by, Jeffrey. I appreciate it. So, you didn't get all of it read either. Yeah, it was a big section. That was a big section and the section I'm talking about is the lines of investigation, and this is the second part of that. And I did get a lot of it read, but I didn't finish it. And so, yeah. Maybe we can get that finished soon. Oh, cross stitching? Hey, Laura. Good to see you. Well, let me tell you what I did get out of this so far. The first part of this talked a lot about what a family liaison does. And I had to go and look this up because I was not entirely sure that we have family liaison here in the States. Did you guys know? Do we actually have them? Anybody actually know the answer to that? Hi, Barbara. Well, you know, Annie, I'm going to be doing a little bit of the coloring on my other channel, Shiny She Shed. If you guys have not subscribed and you would like to see some coloring online, I'm going to be doing some diamond painting, some coloring, some regular watercolor painting, some paintings I got from Hirschner's, that kind of stuff. I'm going to be doing that on the other channel. So that is what I was looking at, and it looks like it's another one of those things that goes from state to state, and it might possibly come down to whether those particular, not just whether the state can afford it, but whether the counties can afford it. It seems like it might be something like a liaison Maybe they just get referred to social services. I hear that. I hear that on interviews with law enforcement online and things like that. They say that they get referred to social services. I don't know what that means. I don't know if they're saying that they have a liaison, that they're going to get them connected with a liaison, or if they actually are just going to say, here's a piece of paper with all the places with phone numbers you can call. I don't know. I really think it changes from state to state and county to county. I don't think it's like a nationwide thing. Yeah, the poorer counties, I think they don't. I don't think they all have a liaison, but a family liaison is the same name for the most part in here and in um, the UK. And they're a lot of people think that they're there to comfort the family. And I had that going into reading this part of this book because for some reason I had that thought that the family liaison, somebody needs to send so and so over to talk to them. And that to me meant that they were going to comfort them. But that's not what they do. Bought your daughter some paints and pencils and drawing things? Oh, yeah. I was wondering that myself. And then what he's saying is that the most important thing that a family liaison person does, and that is to help with victimology. So when we were talking about the part of understanding the victim, learning how they lived will help you know how they died. The family liaison helps a lot with that. Hi, Donna. Glad you could come in. I'm not showing you my hands. I was not set up for that. I don't know. I just I'm just gonna hold my knitting and knit while I talk to y'all. That is my what I feel like doing tonight. Yeah, and I think that might be part of this. Glad you're here, Karen. Thank you. Good to see you. That the family liaison has to be trained. That they actually go through quite a bit of training from what I understand because they're passing information back and forth between the family and law enforcement. So they're actually working with the team. And so they have certain things that the team would like to know, which would help them with the investigation. And so they're looking for those things. And at the same time, there may be some things that the family wants to know, and the liaison can tell them certain things and kind of, in a way, control the information that gets back to the family. You like the tour? I finally got a tour in. I tell you, for some reason, I had not felt like everything was in place to where I wanted it. So I finally felt like, you know what, I may tweak it a little bit, but for the most part, things are fairly. Y'all need to let me know on that tour. Go over and watch the tour of the she shed and let me know if there's something more that you want to see a better tour of. I can show you anything that you saw in the video. Did you guys see the part in the book where he said that he came up with something called DI cop? Did anybody catch that? The DI cop. This was something that Stephen came up with that helped. It was, one of those tools in his mind. And that was defined goal, information, confirmation bias, options, plan to be wrong. DI cop. I'm going to move this over here out of the way so I can get to my coffee. It's gotten a little cooler here today. It's hot and it's a little full. Hey, Shad. It's absolutely okay, Mary. And anything you want to add to this, anything related to crime or any of that kind of stuff. We're going to talk about more books here in a little while. So absolutely okay, even if you just want to sit and listen. So I've got my Texas cup tonight and I'm drinking medium roast with Carmen almond creamer. I love caramel. My favorite is the French vanilla creamer, but they didn't have any. So going back to work this coming week, won't be on live anymore because you were wondering where I am. Aw. Well, maybe you can watch it on replay, Donna, and just give me a hello. I love those hellos. And those that watch this on replay, I really need to say today, Adele, Gracie, Natalie, so many wonderful people who watch these on replay for me, and I really appreciate you very much. And those who are lurking, some of those same ones, I know Gracie is a lurker. Hello to you. I know Adele lurks. I have others that lurk. So I really appreciate the lurkers as well. Mnemonic devices. I'm not sure what part we were talking about. I'm not sure what part I was talking about, so you'll have to give me more information, Barbara. So then the next part I wanted to talk about was the special postmortem. Now this is a kind of a grim topic, isn't it? Let's talk about the postmortem. Oh, so the DI cop plan. Okay, so they use acronyms. Yeah. Okay. I think they do because the FLO, which is the Family Liaison Officer, the DCI, the SIO, they use a lot of acronyms, or they would be constantly, I guess they would be writing all of this stuff a lot. And instead of that, because they have to take a lot of notes, I think that's why they use a lot of acronyms. And acronyms, like it or not, there's just a lot of them anymore. I can't believe how many acronyms there are. People have got a whole language talking that way with just a few words in between. It's amazing. And I can read that. I prefer more words because I don't want to lose them. If you don't use them, you'll lose them, right? But the special postmortem is different than a regular postmortem. Any guesses as to why? Is anybody else fascinated with the postmortem? I think, and Stephen's gonna go, what? But I think the special postmortem, to me, I think of Bones, because I watched Bones, and I know it's a television show, and that's where Stephen would be like, it's just not like that. And one of the things that surprised me that he was saying was that, when you watch a television program, sometimes it's just so and so is alone with the body trying to figure this out. No, because that's what happened on Bones a lot, right? She was alone with the body. She had to figure it out. Everybody, just leave me alone. Let me figure this out. And then she talks into her little recorder and does everything. And I'm sure that does happen in some places, but what he's saying is a lot of their team goes to the postmortem. They have the photographer, they have the person who handles the collection of evidence. There's a lot of people involved. So that was surprising to me. It makes perfect sense, though, to have those people on the team there to coordinate everything and make sure that, the one guy who was supposed to, well, did you get that vial of whatever? And no. I mean, one guy having to be responsible for everything. So some of the things I took away from this were that the special one is something that they do, especially when there is a murder, so a homicide. They don't, or if things are just not clear, they need to make sure and make sure things are clear about what happened. Then they sometimes will have a special postmortem. Hey, Maribel, good to see you. So they're looking for a cause of death. They're looking for circumstances of death. So I was talking about that and how, sometimes they can say, well, this guy was shot. Well, it looks obvious that way. But the special postmortem will go in and give more information about how that happened. Was he just shot, or did somebody else shoot him? So a lot of that comes into play, and they have to figure out all of the circumstances also around what happened. But yes, they are trying to figure out what happened. That is the goals, to find out what happened. Did you guys realize that the person who gets charged in a homicide or a crime, they have the right to have a second post-mortem? Yeah, and I think that some of this is going to come in. Speaking of gunshot, I think some of that is going to come into play in the trial of Alec Murdaugh. I think, really, that they're going to bring, I keep thinking that there's going to be a reason why they're not saying somebody else is involved. Because we're not hearing that from the prosecution. We're not looking for other people. We're saying he did it. And they're saying there were two different guns. So if there's two different guns, how did he do this with two different guns? I think, looking at just that, the trajectory of the bullets, how far away somebody would have had to have been when they shot. Those kind of things are going to be huge in the Alec Murdaugh case. I really think so. I was watching something today, and I was doing dishes and I was watching, was it like an old forensic files, I think. And so they were trying to figure out what happened to someone. And I'm thinking about covering this case. So if you guys are interested, let me know. But it was the case of a cop who killed a cop. And that's not something we hear too often. And that's one of the ways they figured that out, was when they saw what type of weapon was used, what kind of bullet was used, and who could make that shot. And that's how they started to get onto this with the cop. Had to have been someone. They started to realize it needed to be somebody who had the ability to do that. And then they started looking at what would make the shot. So I think that would be an interesting case for us to follow, if you guys to talk about, if you guys want to. I thought that it was interesting on this one, where a death by hanging. So this would be a circumstance. Someone died by hanging is usually not something that happens with a murder. So how could it possibly be brought in if it was a murder? And that is because it can cover up strangulation. I hadn't thought of that. I don't think I've watched any cases where someone was hung and everybody thought it was a suicide, and then it became something different because that's how it got covered up. Was they went ahead and hung them because they had, strangled them with something. Interesting. And I can't think of a single case that way. So that was kind of a new thought for me too. Hey, Sandy. Glad you're here. How's your Tuesday going? So then he started talking about rigor mortis. And I have to tell you, this triggered something for me, and it's very personal and I cannot talk about it. But this was something that's playing around in my head now, thinking back to someone, because rigor mortis begins at 1 to 3 hours. So this is part of the postmortem, how they can figure out, you hear them talk about lividity and rigor mortis, and that helps with time of death. Okay. And then 10 to 12 hours, you have full rigor mortis. And that's where the body is stiff, you guys, where things aren't moving. And then at 24 to 36 hours is when rigor mortis has fully left the body. So a lot of times when they find someone and they, find someone deceased and they are, you can move them around, they have, movement, it's well past, they know that it's been at least a day that they've been there. That's part of how they know that. Oh, I hate that. I hate the Wi-Fi, and yeah. I have dealt with an awful lot of that with this channel, let me tell you. And then they talked about liver. He talked about liver mortis, which is discoloration, and that is from changes that happen in the liver. And that reminded me of a case. Everything reminds me of something, y'all. But there was a case that I listened to on a podcast, and it was a young man who was found in a bathtub, and his friends said that he committed suicide, and that he did this by shooting himself. And there was a gun found, there was a bullet found, he was found in the bathtub. Here's the rub, though. When his body was taken for postmortem, they discovered that he had some discoloration, and that discoloration would never have been there if he had been laying in the bathtub all that time. Wouldn't happen. So they had started to suspect these friends who were telling this story. And so it's not, you're having issues too, Shad. Your hotspot ain't so hot. Well, that's the thing with hotspots. You got to find just the right spot. It sucks. I use my hotspot to upload here, and I only do that because it's just that much faster. Just that much, like an hour or so as compared to a couple of hours if I use my home internet. And I pay out the yin yang for it. For extra hotspot ability. Just because. It's a real thing when you're remote. Yes, the liver mortis is where the blood has settled. Exactly. So in this case that I was talking about, this young man had to have been face forward at some point and not sitting back in the bathtub. And so that's another way that they can figure out what's going on in the postmortem. And then we get to the part about the witnesses. Witnesses are not what I thought. What about y'all? What do y'all think witnesses are? In the chat, if you can, and if you want to, tell me what you think a witness is. Well, it's the truth, Shad. Your phone has to be in the right spot or it's useless as a hotspot. No guesses? No idea what a witness is? Okay, there we go. People who hear or see something. Mm-hmm. Someone who was around when the crime happened, right? Now, someone who saw the action of the crime itself is an eyewitness. So they were there when it happened, and they saw the person who did it, or they saw things occur, or they saw something, and they were there during whenever it was going on. someone who was there. Yes. Those are usually eyewitnesses, which are rare. It's rare to find an eyewitness. There's very few people that are actually there when something happens that are eyewitnesses to it. But they can be witnesses to something that pertains to what happened also. And they get that, he said they give life to the story, and they really do, you guys. When all these trials that I watch, when I listen to the witnesses talk, they really do bring life to the story that is being told of what happened. They really do. I think my internet's just really slow tonight. That's what it looks like. Yeah, things that that before and after the crime also they're witness to that too. Absolutely. They saw something or someone that helps us to understand what happened. And it's not unusual, from what I understand, and from watching trials, it makes more sense when you think of it this way, that a lot of times witnesses will change their story. They don't mean to, but they just might not remember what they said. They might not remember what they saw. They say even eyewitnesses don't always remember everything. Hey, Jeannie, how are you doing? I hope you're feeling stronger. You know, here's a case in point that we talked about recently, and that was the George Wagner trial, and that's the Piketon murders. There were a lot of witnesses that came in and testified. We had Tabitha, who was married to George Wagner. She was a witness. You had the cousin that came in and testified as a witness. You had the people who discovered the bodies. They were witnesses as to what they saw. There were so many of them. And I don't know if we call them the same thing here. I did not have time to look that up, because I like to look some things up to see if we have the same thing in the US as the UK. Stephen was talking about vulnerable witnesses and intimidated witnesses. And a vulnerable witness is someone who possibly might have some sort of a disability, like physical or mental disability, or they're underage, under 18. No, that is not it. That's not a eyewitness. It's given as evidence, and then, and if you can't read what she said, she says, is camera footage considered an eyewitness? It is something that they have to bring an expert in, and the expert is the witness to the evidence. And then the evidence gets entered that way. Good question. Thank you. So I was thinking, on this vulnerable witness, you had, I don't know how many of you watched The Making of a Murderer, but Brandon Avery was a witness against Stephen Avery. And I would call him a vulnerable witness. And that's what surprises me about his case, because he was given time. And I don't know that I agree with that one. So we're not going to talk about that case tonight, but that was a good reference for me as far as somebody who would be a vulnerable witness. At least to me it is. Evidently he wasn't. Intimidated witnesses, the thing that came to mind on that one was the one they talked about, domestic. So if somebody was in the family with a person and they really did not want to be a witness because they might feel intimidated and like something like retaliation could happen if they testified, those are intimidated witnesses. Excuse me. Tickle. I had a little tickle. So that's basically all I've got right now. I promise I will finish this part next time. But I was wanting to know, how are we doing on the poll that I put up? Can someone tell me about what the poll? Let's see if I missed anything here. Just wondering if y'all could put your little cursor over that poll and let me know yes or no what's winning. I'm considering us doing 89% said yes out of 18 votes. Thank you. Thank you guys. Yeah, see, those would be intimidated witnesses. Exactly. So, how many of you have ever read the book Death of a Salesman? Anybody? I have not. Was not made to read it in school. Well, congratulations, Tammy. Welcome in. Grab you something to drink and have a seat. Rest. You have read it, Shad. You're a well-read person, I think. Years and years ago, says Annie. Yeah, a lot of people read it in high school, or were it was on their reading list for high school. I was thinking it might be something that that would be easy to find at the library, either physically at the library or online at one of the library, or it might be easy to find um, for sale somewhere, or you might have a copy and you just can pull it back out again. I'm kind of thinking it would be fun to read that. And it was a movie, so you could watch the movie. Might be fun for us to watch the movie too to go along with it. Yeah, I know. We had to read Shakespeare too, didn't we? There's death and murder in that Shakespeare. But I don't know that I want to read Shakespeare. Maybe someday. Well, that is what I'm thinking. I'm thinking we might do that as a cleanser after this book and do a little bit of fiction. Can you guys tell me some of what you have either read lately, like within the last month, or what you have listened to, like on Audible or on a CD or something like that? See, I would much rather go to a play. I would much rather do that. Well, Annie said she was reading Shakespeare in the 3rd grade. Well, I wasn't. So what have you guys read in the last month? Other than this book, for those who have read this book, have you guys read any crime-related books or listened to any crime-related? So I finished listening because I haven't been able to sit down and read, but I have listened to A Serial Killer's Daughter by Carrie Rawson, and she is BTK's daughter. And that was eye-opening. Has anybody ever listened to that or read that? Did you? You reread the whole thing? Oh my gosh, I have it, Annie. I got it when I was in Colorado. I want to read it again. Oh, how awesome. Oh, I hope he feels better soon, Barbara. Oh, did you? You heard about that book? So let me see if I can get the cover to show you guys what the cover looks like. Let me see if I can find it. Do, 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 do. So this is what the book looks like. A Serial Killer's Daughter by Carrie Rawson. My Story of Faith, Love, and Overcoming. And I heard about it on Ken Main's channel because I did not know that she had written a book. I think I have another book on Audible or in Kindle about BTK. You guys, I'm really glad that I listened to this book before delving into that case, before diving into that serial killer, because that leaves a whole different perspective as to how normal it's like Bundy, how normal someone like Ted Bundy or BTK could be. And they say BTK really changed how they profiled people because he didn't fit. He just didn't fit with what they were looking at the time and their investigations. Oh no, you're not the only one, Annie. We all have, yeah. This week has been really, I came down with that bug and I mean, I couldn't stay awake. I had books I was trying to listen to. I was like, well, I can lay down and listen to a book. I couldn't stay awake for that either. I hadn't, finally, the last 2 days, I finally got some grocery shopping done today. We didn't have any fresh food in the house at all. And for those of you who are wondering, and in case Alicia is watching because she hasn't been here for a while, I'm not sure what has happened. However, I am still going to eat healthy. So if you guys still want to talk food, we can still do food chats and we can talk about healthier food options. I'm not going to stress myself out with the plant-based diet. I'm just not going to do it. It's too much. It's just too much. And I don't see any reason to be that stressed when you're trying to get healthy, because that's not good for you if you're stressing. Yeah, I'm glad it didn't last longer than it did. I really am. And you guys know that I've been traveling too, so I traveled from September through December. I went to my dad's in September, and I was there for 33 days, end of July into September. And then I came back and I had like a week. I went to my daughter Carrie's and took care of Sailor for a couple of days. And then I came back, and then I went to my daughter Chelsea's and was there for almost 2 weeks. Came back for about a week, went back and took care of Sailor again for another time. Came back, was home for maybe a week or two, and then went to my dad's again and was there 20 something days this last time for his surgery. I think I just got tired. And it's really changed a lot of things for me, for the channel. I just didn't have time to do a lot of things, didn't have time to devote to a lot of things. The plant-based eating, I like it. Don't get me wrong, I like it. But I really have to not put so much pressure on myself. I'm going to try to eat plant-based. Whether it's going to be strictly plant-based whole food is a whole nother thing. So if you can, oh, that's awesome. Getting a blender and air fryer, you can make some dressings and things. So I'll come back on Thursday and we'll talk more about that. How's that? And then the next book that we're going to do is going to be Death of a Salesman. So read as much as you can on the book. Um, Anyone who would like to, I'm going to try to go ahead and just finish it and take notes. And then I will see if I can get a hold of Stephen and find out when he wants to come on. If he still wants to come on, he may go, yo. So you did them in the air fryer? You just did them. Would you put any seasoning on them, Shad? That's something I want to learn this year to do more of myself, and that is to use my air fryer and to make healthier choices with the air fryer. Is I need to take my air fryer apart. That's a whole nother story. Whole nother story. We'll talk about that too. So, okay, you guys, I will try to get a live posted for you. Tomorrow is Wednesday, and I should have some stuff coming out on my other channel. I have some openings and stuff that I did some videos. And then Friday I do have all the notes and things ready to go for Murdoch Murders. We're going to talk about the case of the boat accident where Paul was involved. Old Bay. I wondered about the Old Bay. Old Bay's good stuff. Yeah, we need to get some feedback on that. If any of you have any recommendations for an air fryer, I will not recommend the one that I got. Just so you know, it's a Vortex, Insta Vortex. I would not get that. I would stay away from anything digital. If you can get one with dials, go with dials. They're much easier to repair. Just saying. All of my digital stuff is not, I can't see it. It's all gone away. So I don't have any clue about anything. That's part of the reason I haven't been able to use it. And I've only had that for about a year, I think. I'm not even sure. I'd have to go back and see when I opened it. That's my recommendation, Tammy's don't get anything digital. And I almost wish that I had gotten the one that was a air fryer with a um, what do you call that? A convection oven, or not convection. Y'all know what I mean. The Power Air Fryer 5 tray. Okay, there's one. You watched an interview about the boat. Was that a YouTube or other place? Toaster. That's it, toaster. So it was like a air fryer toaster oven, and I thought that would be very handy to me. But my daughter has Chelsea has one, and it has 2 trays, and you can coordinate the times. So I'll see if I can't find out what hers is called. She really likes that one. So I hope we were helpful. Don't let us forget that on Thursday. So if that's not posted, you guys, it's because I wasn't feeling up to it. Just so you know. Those are going to be kind of iffy. They may even only be every other week instead of every week on the food chats. So, but we will still do them. I think lots of you still want to. Yeah. Okay. I love y'all. I'm going to go now. I appreciate you very much. Just read the rest of the book. Read as far as you can read. Okay. I appreciate it. And also, if you guys have any recommendations for BookTube, Shad, email me if you know of any booktubes that are good. I've been looking for some. Most of the people that I've seen for true crime and booktube channels, they're young and they do that flashy flash stuff, and it's like, not my thing. Can't tolerate it. So, good night, everybody. Love y'all. Have fun today, tonight. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Stay safe. Stay well. And I'll see you again soon. Bye, everybody.